Webinar control panel. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar this afternoon, looking down the road here at next week, particularly from Monday morning through Wednesday mid-morning. So let's get started with the webinar. So what do we know right now? Well, the coldest temperatures of the season will arrive next week, once again, Monday through Wednesday. Of interest, this is the same period based on the Martin Luther King holiday that we had a Arctic Express outbreak in 2024. So if you remember that event from last year, we have a slightly different but somewhat similar one coming our way. The coldest conditions overall will be on Tuesday through Wednesday morning. Widespread temperatures are expected to be below 32 degrees, meaning a freeze, on Wednesday morning across the entire region. There's a 30 to 50% chance of a hard freeze, meaning temperatures below 28 degrees for 2 or more hours across the critical crop growing areas of Hidalgo, Willacy, Northwest Cameron County on Wednesday morning. And in some of the colder pockets, these temperatures could last for up to 4 hours or more. A wintry mix is possible for a short window on Tuesday. So here's what we mean by that. In the brush country in northern Zapata County from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., there could be sleet and even some snow flurries with a 50% probability of this occurring. In Starr County from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the form of ice and sleet, the chances are lower here, 20 to 30%. In Hidalgo and southern Brooks County from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., once again mainly ice and some sleet, which is ice pellets, the chance here at 10 to 20%. And Northwest Cameron and western Willacy, can't rule it out there, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and this would be in the form of freezing rain, ice on contact, with the chances at 15%. So one quick thing about that slide is that we're looking at the situation moving more quickly than we had earlier. And so we'll show you that as we get into the temperature forecast and details of it for Tuesday. So let's start with Monday, though. We do expect a light freeze to occur across the northern ranchlands from Falfurrias to Hebbronville in northern Zapata County. The valley should be above 32, but could be in that 35 to 40 range, so it will be a bit chilly. And when you add the winds to it, it will feel like the mid-20s to lower 30s. The probability of temperature below 32 is shown here. From Hebbronville, you can't see the percentage, but this percentage is 50%. For Falfurrias, 37%, same with San Ignacio and Zapata in the 30 to 40% range. So we have pretty good confidence of below 32, but if you get to the lower valley, we're looking at 3 to 9% at best in some of the crop growing areas. This is Monday morning, the very start of this event. Now on Tuesday it gets colder, and as you can see, the cold arrives first across the ranchlands from Falfurrias to Hebbronville in northern Zapata County. It will arrive a bit later in the morning as we move farther southeast into the lower and mid-valley. So what do we mean by this? When people wake up in the morning, 6, 7 a.m. across the northern ranchlands, they're going to see not only the sub-freezing temperatures, but if there's precipitation, and again, that's an if because the chances are lower out there, it'll be in the form of sleet, ice pellets, or snowflakes. And it won't last very long. It'll be an interesting conversational event out there. Now, as we get farther into the lower valley, the morning will actually start off above freezing from the Harlingen area through McAllen, Mission, Roma, La Jolla, Rio Grande City, etc. But we think as we move into the mid-morning to the early afternoon, we'll have a surge of cold air come down. At the same time, we have low clouds and some precipitation falling. In that window, as we mentioned in the previous slide, we'll see temperatures fall to around freezing in many of these areas. There's a probability that could be below freezing, meaning 29 to 31 degrees in these areas between those windows that I mentioned before, which range from 6 to 11 a.m. in Starr County, and then all the way from 8 to 2 p.m. in Hidalgo and 9 to 3 p.m. in Northwest Cameron and Willacy County. So it's going to be one of those roller coaster dip days in temperatures. We'll start off cold but not freezing, except for the ranchlands. We'll get down to near or below freezing in the valley during the late morning through early afternoon. And then what happens is the system scoops off to our northeast pretty quickly, and we actually will see lifting cloud heights, if not some sunshine, as we move from west to east. So by mid-afternoon, meaning 4 to 7 p.m., across the ranchlands, we could reach the upper 30s as early as 3 or 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And across the mid-valley, we could reach the upper 30s by the time we get to 4 or 5 p.m. And the last place to see the lifting clouds would be the lower valley, but even there we think we'll get above freezing by several degrees by the time we get to 5 p.m. Why does this matter? That's the evening commute. And two pieces of good news for the evening commute Tuesday. One, if it warms up, any water on the ground, any frozen precipitation on elevated bridges not treated will be turning to wetness. And more likely, with lower humidity coming in behind the system moving out, we'll just dry things up in time for that evening commute. So that's some good news here. But again, there's still some uncertainty on the exact timing, so don't write home with this just yet. But our model trends today really did start to line up for this timing, so our confidence is increasing. So let's move on to wind chill, how people have to bundle up for this event. On Tuesday, our early morning wind chills will be coldest across the ranch lands, below 25 degrees. In the valley, they'll be ranging through the 30s, but as we get into that late morning to early afternoon hour, when we have the low clouds and some precipitation falling, those wind chills are going to be dropping. The next slide shows that. At noon, we're looking at mid-20s to around 30 in the valley, still mid-20s across the ranch lands where the clouds will not have broken up just yet. So watch for that chilling effect going on during the day. So if you have plans for the midday in the valley, it will actually feel colder and be colder than it will be when you wake up. So we're looking at the probability of ice or freezing rain. So this means an accretion value of 0.01 inch. And you're thinking, well, that's not much, but that's all it takes on an untreated bridge or road, or maybe to get some on a tree or a grass blade. Our highest probabilities are across the northern ranchlands here, Hebbronville, Thompsonville, out towards San Ignacio in northern Zapata County, basically 30 to 50%. We're looking at 20 to 40% across the rest of Jim Hogg and Brooks, except for the southeast corner. But here's the valley concern. We do have the upper valley, 20 to 30% from Rio Grande City out to west of Mission into La Jolla and Sullivan City, and still a 15 to 20% probability across the remainder of the populated valley, with the exception of Brownsville. I think Brownsville's probabilities will be 10% or less, but everyone else is going to have some probability, a reasonable worst case scenario to prepare for here. Now, Wednesday morning, we're looking at the lowest temperatures of the whole group of days here. So we're talking a pretty definitive hard freeze across the livestock regions in the ranch lands from Zapata to Falfurrias. And then we're looking at mid to upper 20s across the ranch lands of the lower mid valley and upper valley, meaning Star, Hidalgo, and Willacy County. And then you get to the populated valley and what I call the fruit and vegetable basket of the growing areas from central Hidalgo, southern Hidalgo, through southern Willacy and western Cameron. We're looking at 29 or 28 to 31. However, there's a pretty good probability that we have to concern ourselves with of a hard freeze, meaning 2 hours or more of temperature below 28 degrees. And that's roughly 30 to 40% across the really area that we grow many of our fruits and vegetables. So if that's a threshold to be concerned with, you need to take action as we head into Wednesday morning. And again, this could slip to a lower value or a higher value depending on the circumstance. Right now, the lean is that these probabilities will actually go up. So really, we need to be prepared for our vegetation and crop growers. If anything's starting to grow, if oranges or grapefruits are on the trees, it might be worthy to take them off the trees, whatever's left, before we get to Wednesday morning. Finally, I want to remind everybody to protect people, pets, pipes, and plants. These are your recommendations. They all do matter here in the valley with this kind of situation as we saw in 2024. And we also saw again just before Christmas in 2022. So beware of that. Also, we want to add a fifth P, the power situation. While we don't expect any widespread power outages, we all know that when it gets cold, along with some precipitation, we can have some isolated to scattered power outages. So be ready with protecting people and pets if the power goes out and your room gets cold. So that's the end of our presentation for this morning. I'm going to jump out of it and I will open the floor for questions. So first I'm going to stop the recording.